Love you, brother. Thank you. Good morning, NAFA. Oh, good morning. Are you ready? You know, when I was going through speaker training, a woman by the name of Patricia Fripp, you know, she told me that you're going to have subliminal messaging working in your favor. She said there's really two types. The first type is external. Now, before you get your undies in a bundle, there you go. How about that? So, two types, the external and the internal. No, do you believe? Do you really, really believe? Well, let me see how much you believe, because your clients are seeing right through you. Who's my buddy over here who can help me out? Brian, good to meet you, buddy.
Good to meet you.
Let's see how much we really believe. You heard I started a business in 1999. What's the date of this, or what document are we looking at here?
Personal financial statement.
A personal financial statement of who?
John F. Nichols.
Okay, and this look like the real deal? Coffee stain and all, right? And so the date on this is?
6/25/99.
6/25/99, huh? You know, I started a business and I have a business checking account. How much money was in that business checking account?
$2. 10,000.
Thank God, 10,000. You know, so I go home and I tell my wife I'm starting this business, and I said I hired a sales rep too. I'm paying him $5,000, and I had $5,000 left, right? Well, then she flipped the page because she was looking at our personal financial statement, and she looked at this column that says,
Life insurance.
what's it say?
Life insurance.
Life insurance. And how much life insurance did I have total?
$360.
$360,000. And how much cash value did I have?
$13,500.
$13,500. What do you think my wife said to me? She's better off with me dead than what? Alive. Do you believe? See, your customers are counting on you. Do you believe? Well, as you may or may not know, I'm going to go back a little bit in history. I was born and raised in St. Small, Minnesota, December 22nd, 1961. Had a great run at it. Went to, just be careful with the heckling. I went to St. Thomas Academy. I'm a cadet. And then graduated from St. Thomas College, which is now the University of St. Thomas. You know, I was in the radio business, working my way through school, and a family friend, a third-generation general agent. You always got to be careful with those general agents. He invited me out for breakfast, and the next thing you know, I'm suited up. He said, "Hey, son, if you can sell radio, you can sell life insurance." And that's how I came into the business. I was a young man, 22 years old. The gentleman's name was Norb Winter, started with Minnesota Life. And little did I know that the life insurance business will find out what you're really made of. And I had this fear. And this fear would not escape me. I failed so miserably that first year. I made a whopping $9,000. It did not go very well for me. I had that fear of the phone. And I had the fear of rejection. And it was coming right through me. Well, I failed, unfortunately. I spent about 3 years with Norby. And I got smart. It's one thing about the insurance business. It creates really smart people. And I said to myself, St. Small is too small, right? Everybody knows everybody, and it seemed like everybody was doing business with Tom Dezek, who was kind of Mr. St. Paul in our agency. And so I got the bright idea of moving to a bigger city, and I chose Chicago. And I said, more prospects, more people to call on, more people would buy. And guess what followed me all the way to Chicago? Absolutely. That fear of rejection. I mean, I was that kid that wouldn't call the girl for the prom date. That was me. That's how bad I had this call reluctance. Well, I was introduced to a gentleman by the name of Bill Grimes out of Texas. And Bill Grimes had a program called the Call Reluctance Program. And I became Bill's #1 student. And I walked out of Bill with just one little concept that changed my world. And it's called the Thought Zapper. And here it is. And every time I saw that phone, and I started to shake and get nervous, I would just pull it back. And it would immediately set me into action. In 1992, with the help of NAIFA, Minnesota, there's a woman by the name of Rita Lindy. Rita called me and she said, "Hey, I heard you're an expert in disability insurance." I said, "Yes, I am. I've got a case in which I need some help." And Rita told me about the case. It was the Association of American Medical Colleges. There's 60 medical schools around the country. So Rita and I formed a partnership. Think of it as joint work. And Rita had the relationship, and I built the product. And in 1993, we went to the marketplace with an HIV disability product for medical students. In a short 7 months, we sold 38 of the 60 medical schools. Oh my God, my world changed like you couldn't believe. Fast cars, big houses, fancy suits. I mean, I'm big man on campus. Oh yeah. I was drinking the fruits of my labor. I thought I had made it. Well, every year my buddies got together and we would go up to Dave Hammerschmidt's cabin up in northern Wisconsin, Minocqua. And so I snuck a day off of work. Let this be a lesson to you. And we went up there and we played golf in the morning. Came back to the cabin. Rich and his girlfriend Sheila, they wandered down to the dock. Jumped in the boat and got it ready for water skiing. My buddy Dan went to the cabin. He grabbed the cooler of beer and soda. I made my way down the hill, walked across the dock, picked up my life preserver, slipped it on, zipped it up, grabbed a couple of skis, and I sat down right on the edge of the dock, and I slipped on the right ski, slipped on the left ski. Sheila was in the back of the boat, and she's twirling the ski rope, and she tossed it to me. The handle splashed right down in front of me. I reached down with my right hand, and I grabbed it, and with my left hand, I gave Rich the thumbs up. "Hit it!" And Rich slammed forward the accelerator. The rope wasn't taut. It tangled and knotted, and it popped me right into the air, and I landed, slicing through 4 feet of water, head first. Boom! Bubbles came out. The skis popped off. And with the help of that life preserver, I floated to the top of that 4 feet of water. Rich and Sheila took the boat for a long spin around, thinking I just had a funny fall. Dan came out of the cabin and he saw that it was a funny fall, and he just kind of laughed to himself and he said, what a klutz. Meanwhile, I was underneath that water, taking it in, and images started to pass through my brain. Clack, 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 clack. I could see my parents and family and friends and the baseball games and the championship trophies. Clack, 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 clack. All of a sudden it was quiet, and it felt like I was falling asleep. I couldn't get my head above the water line. and I just floated away. Dan got down to the beach, and it was just taking too long. He had this funny feeling. He stripped down to his shorts, and he swam 50 yards to my body. He got to me, and he pushed me, and I bobbed like a buoy. 17 years passes by, and Dan finally tells me the rest of the story. He said he grabbed me from the shoulder and he pulled me up, and he saw the blood gushing down the side of my face. And then he looked straight into my eyes, and he saw the whites of my eyeballs as they had already floated back. He yelled at me, "John, John, wake up, wake up!" Frantically, Dan swam with my body in tow the 50 yards back to the beach, and he laid me down. As fate would have it, just a month earlier, Dan learned to perform CPR. And he performed CPR me and got the water to come up out of my lungs, through my nose and my mouth. I was in a state of shock, coughing and choking, and Dan said he grabbed my left thigh. He said he was squeezing it so hard he could see the whites of his knuckles. He was yelling at me, "John, John, what can you feel? What can you feel?" Nothing. Rich and Sheila had finally got the boat to the dock, and Sheila ran up to the cabin and called 911. The ambulance came about 20 minutes later. With the help of the paramedics, they took this baseboard and they slid it underneath the sand. On a count of three, my buddies and the paramedics lifted me up, put me on the stretcher, shipped me off, or put me into the ambulance and off to the first hospital. It was Minocqua, a very, very small town. The best thing that they could do there was give me that shot of morphine that just put me into orbit. About an hour later, they packed me up again, put me into another ambulance, and shipped me down towards Rylander. There was a hospital there that had the capabilities to deal with this catastrophic accident. I slept through the night, and when I woke up in the morning, there was an elderly man sitting on my bedside, stroking his beard. And he looked at me and he said, "Son, can you hear me?" I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "Well, I've got good news and bad news. The good news is you're alive. You're critical condition, but you're going to make it. The bad news is your life is about to change forever. We've diagnosed you as a C5, C6 quadriplegic. You have no movement from your chin down to your toes, and you lost the use of your bowel and your bladder. It's a very difficult life ahead of you." Unfortunately, that was Dr. Moran's last day of work. "Son, we're going to have to ship you to Frederick Memorial Hospital in Milwaukee, and we will do that tomorrow." So they packed me up again, put me in another ambulance, brought me over to the airport, flew me down to Milwaukee, into another ambulance, over to Frederick Memorial Hospital in Milwaukee. It was there in this private room where I was at age 32 years old. 38 medical schools one day, absolutely no movement the next. What in the world am I going to do? Who would take care of me? How would I make a living? What would the impact of my life be? The body wasn't working, but the mind was racing. It was racing so much I was thinking through how I was going to perform the appointment that I had with the 5 Illinois medical schools. There was 5,000 medical students. It was $1 million premium case, and I had the meeting in 2 weeks. Is there anybody in the room that would miss that meeting? I was not one of those. I fought with the doctors. I fought with the nurses. I said, "There's no way I am missing that meeting." They said, "You got to be out of your mind. You look like Frankenstein. You can't move. What are you thinking you're going to be doing?" I said, "I've been working on that case. I own that case. That case is mine." Well, the following morning, there was a knock on my door. My parents were finally there, and we were sorting out my files and rescheduling appointments. And this woman knocks on the door, and she enters, and she says, "Good morning, John." I said, "Oh, good morning. I'm here to do my evaluation." And I said, "Oh, that's interesting. Who are you?" "Well, I'm the clinical psychologist, and we're here to do the evaluation to determine your needs." And I said, "Do you have an appointment?" I said, "An appointment?" "No, I don't have an appointment." "Well, then get the heck out of here. We're busy." That's kind of the patient I was. Well, long story short, it finally got to a point after about 2 weeks of this monkey business that the doctor came in and he started to negotiate with me, and he said, "Son, we need to perform the surgery. We need to have you start working on learning how to adapt to the activities of daily living, learning how to operate as a quadriplegic, what your lifestyle was going to be. Are you going to move home to mommy and daddy back here in St. Paul, Minnesota? All those things, and we need your cooperation." And I said, "Well, Doc, that's all great and wonderful, but I still want to go on that appointment." He said, "You know what? You're a deal maker. Let's make a deal. You show me a little bit of improvement, just a little bit, and I'll let you go on that appointment as long as my nurse assistants are with you." I said, "Doc, I'm all in." He said, "Great." So Jim and Mary, my rehab people, showed up. They pulled me up into that wheelchair that you see. They wheeled me down to the rehab room. The other patients were there. My parents were there. The docs and nurses were there. They pulled me up to that parallel bars, just 10 feet, not a big deal. They strapped me in on the hands on the bars, and Jim and Mary stepped back, and everybody waited. And so there I was. And it didn't take long as the muscles started to fatigue, the body started to shake, the knees started to bend, and the tears started to flow. As I fell back into that wheelchair, what do? Unbelievable. No doubt I missed that appointment. They performed surgery, C5, C6, C7, put you back in bed. They can't repair the spinal cord. Spinal cord runs from the base of your skull right down your back. It sends the nerves out to all your muscles without you even thinking about it. It just happens like that. And it had been cut and punctured, and the nerves weren't flowing. And I had my whole life in front of me. Do you believe in miracles? Well, my dad does. A couple weeks after the surgery, little tingling in my left toes. It started to work its way up the left side of my body. A couple weeks later, the right side. And that's what presented the opportunity, just the opportunity. It was up to me to seize that opportunity. So we started to go to work. Jim and Mary came to the room. They said, "Hey, what time you want to get started on rehab?" I said, "Hey, I'm a 7 a.m. kind of guy. Let's pound it away." Jim said, "Let's make it 8. Well, Jim was right. He'd show up at 8 o'clock, and I was still struggling. I was snoring away. I was just not in any condition. But you surround yourself with the right people that get you moving in the right direction. So that's what we did. We just started working on the parallel bars. And it was not a pretty shuffle. And it was only 1 foot at a time. And eventually, it took me about a week to get down just that 10 feet. I was constantly exhausted, sleeping 18 hours a day, working out for an hour, and eating as much as I could to replenish the nourishment. Doesn't all come back. And a lot of fatiguing, a lot of muscle atrophy. And I just had to relearn how to do everything again, from tying my shoes, to buckling my button, to shaving, to combing my hair. Shaving. I had to relearn all those things all over again. And that was the easy part. That was the easy part. You go through a catastrophic event like that, there's two sides to it. There's that physical side, and then there's the mental side. What would I do for work? Who would ever marry me? Would I ever have kids? Could I ever perform at the level that I was performing at before? What was my life going to look like? I was sleeping 18 hours a day. What was it going to mean? Oh, but my mom was there. You could always come home and live with us. Are you out of your mind? Not going to happen. So Jim and Mary worked with me for well over a year, and then I had some other rehab people work with me for another 5 years as we put the body back together. The doubt and the self-acceptance took a much longer period of time to get to. And it was just trying to deal with this disability that I have. You don't see it, but I live with it. The right side of my body just functions a little differently. I can see it a little bit in the hand, it curls, and I have that same type of fatiguing on the right side of the body. I sleep soundly most nights, a good 9 hours. It's just what it takes in order for me to perform at the level I want to perform at. Well, you know the rest of the story, 1999, that was the 6 years to finally get back to work. And I made a decision right then and there that I was going to do everything I could. My whole purpose in life was going to be about protecting one's income, protecting one's abilities to be able to perform at the highest possible level, and using disability insurance products for that peace of mind and that security. You know, it was 2009 that I got a phone call from a buddy of mine. His name is Bob Herman. Bob Herman works for Principal Financial Group, and Bob and I go way back. He called me into frantic, and he said, "John, I need your help. A friend of mine is on the gymnastics team with my daughter, and she had an accident, and I'm wondering if you can help. She was doing her vault, and she ran down the pathway. She got to the vault, she popped up into the air, and as she came down, she was off, and she hit her head on the mat and broke her neck. C5, C6, same level as mine." I said, "Bob, geez, introduce me to her parents. What hospital is she at? Do you know who her doctor is? What's the extent of the damage?" I wanted all the information. And then I paused, and Bob said, "Hey, are you there?" I said, "Hey, Bob, I'm going to go a step further. I'm going to raise $1,000 for every mile I can complete in the Chicago Marathon." Bob said, "You do that?" And I said, "Of course I do that, Bob. I made the commitment." And we hung up. I go home that night to my sweetie, Gina. And I say, "Gina, you're not going to believe this story." So I tell her this story, and she takes one glaring look at me, and she said, "Are you out of your frickin' mind?" And I said, "What are you talking about, honey?" She said, "The furthest I'd ever seen you run is from the bedroom to the bathroom. How are you going to do it?" And I said, "Well, no, I don't know." She said, "You're a double idiot." And I said, What do you mean? Why don't you do that NAFER thing?" What do you mean the NAFA thing? Come on, you know the NAFA thing. It's NAFA, honey, it's NAFA. Yeah, that's it. I could join the Chicago Area Runners Association, CARA. Why would I join CARA, Chicago Area Runners Association? Because it has the people, resources, and programs to help me succeed in becoming a pseudo-marathon runner. So I joined CARA. Oh, you have to pay dues to join? Yeah, you pay dues and you get the benefits. Amazing how that works. So I joined CARA, and I'm the last man in the last group. I mean, I am behind. I am the caboose of the caboose. But that's where you start. You start in the back of the room. It's just kind of how it is. But they teach you, and they mentor you, and they help you achieve your goal. They say if you complete the 18-week marathon training program of CARA, you have a 98% chance of succeeding in the business. Boy, does that sound a lot like NAFA and MDRT, doesn't it? I'm all in. I got to week 14, and the right side of my body started giving out. I started having all sorts of issues, went to the doctor, and he said, "You're an idiot. You can't be doing a marathon. You're a quadriplegic." I said, "Yeah, I know, but I made a commitment, and I need to follow through." And he said, "Look, you'll do more damage if you continue the program." So I went back to my training group. I said, "Hey, look, I'm not going to be able to do the marathon, but I'll be there to support you 100% of the way." Well, Marathon Day shows up. It's October 9th, 2009. It was a chilly 31 degrees with light snow falling. What's the one thing C5, C6 quadriplegics hate? We hate cold weather because it just makes us kind of crunch up in our muscles and our body. But you know what I say? At 5 a.m. when I woke up, you suit up, you show up. Oh, let me get there. And so that's what I did. I said, you know what? I got nothing to lose. So I suited up, I showed up. The band's playing, the people are there. I mean, look at them all. We are pumped, we are ready to go. Bang, the starter gun goes off. The first 2 miles, I am feeling it. It is awesome. And I run into my group. It was awesome. Mary's the team leader. She said, "John, what the heck are you doing?" And I said, "Look, man, I made a commitment. I made a promise. I am going to see it through to the end." She said, "Join the group. Let's go." So we ran 5 miles north to Wrigley Field where the Cubbies play. Then we turned around. We ran another 5 miles back to the city. So I got 12 miles in. So then it's 2 miles out to the United Center where Michael Jordan plays. And we got to mile 14. And my right side gives out. And oh my God, I'm on the ground. It's not good. Mary and the pace group, they are gone. I get up and I look to the side of the road, and there it is. Those frickin' excuses show up. I'm not getting on the bus. Are you kidding me? No way. You're out of here. I'm pushing on. So I'm shuffling, walking, shuffling, rocking, and get 5 more miles in. I get to mile 19. The right leg is begging me, "Please quit. Please quit. You're done. You're fried." I am like, now what am I going to do? What am I going to do? I mean, come on. Look I had already raised the money. I had it in the bag, of course. Oh, look, who would ever say, "Oh, geez, you quit at mile 19? What a baby." I mean, you know, oh, you had an accident. Oh, okay. Well, you know, I could always do it next year, right? Come on. Well, then, of course, I looked to the side of the road, and, you know, there it is. It's like it was following me the whole way. Okay, he's ready. He's ready. Yeah, those excuses, they got you. Well, I'm not built that way, and I suspect either are you. No way. I had 7 miles to go, 385 yards, and I pushed on. I got to mile 20, mile 21. You know, you only get a medal if you finish within 6 hours and 30 minutes. Otherwise, it doesn't count. The winner of that Chicago Marathon did it in 2 hours and 5 minutes. The average runner, 4 hours, 10 minutes. Me, I crossed that finish line 6 hours, 9 minutes, and 59 seconds, and I got the medal to prove it, baby. I need your help. I need your help.
Yeah, you need a lot of help.
I forgot to bring the medal. I'm sorry. But so what does that medal say? Can you see it by chance? What's that? What's it say?
Does it say Bank of America?
Yeah. So what's that say?
10, 10, 10.
10, 10, 10. 10, 10, 10. I thought you said you ran the 2009 marathon. Well, all right. You just keep that in mind. We'll get right back to it. So what are we going to do today? I'm going to share the 5 universal principles that got me to go from being a quadriplegic to being top of the table. Just 5. And we're going to talk about that. We've got about 20 minutes left. And I'm going to close with a story. And I'm going to make one offer to every one of you right now. You brought a business card, I hope, because that's what we're all about. You turn in a business card to me, I'll call you up, and we'll schedule a 20-minute call with everybody that puts a card in me. Now, I'm only going to be here for a period of time, so don't hesitate. If you want the 20-minute call, you give me a business card, and I'll schedule up with you. And let me just give you a hint. If you give me a card, I'm calling you, because I'm what's called a phoneaholic. Universal principle number 1. You probably have heard of it. Successful people do what unsuccessful people are unwilling or unable to do. Have you heard of it? Yeah, it's from this little gem right here. The common denominator of success. I cannot tell you how many times I've read this thing. And I carry it with me wherever I go. But ask yourself, this is actually a NAIFA main stage presentation. Does anybody know what year? 1940, you're absolutely right. But we miss it because why do successful people do? Why? Why do they do it? Well, I'll get to that in a second. There's a comic strip that I really like. It's called Dilbert. Everybody here Dilbert? Scott Adams is the writer. He wrote an article on the definition of happiness from his perspective. And he said happiness equals freedom plus health. Pretty good, isn't it? Freedom plus health. Well, I thought about that overnight, and I said, I think Scott missed it. I think it needs one more piece. I think happiness is freedom plus health plus purpose squared. So in Chicago, we have a lot of rules and regulations to do construction. And one of those rules is you need to get permission from your neighbors. I got a neighbor, Ed, and I was doing a rehab on my building, and I needed Ed's permission. I didn't know Ed, but I knew of Ed. So I went over there, knocked on the door, and this woman in white answered the door. I said, I'm John Nichols from next door. I'm here to see Ed to get a sign-off on the rehab. She said, sure, welcome. Ed's in the living room. I said, okay. I entered, and I see Ed is in the living room, but he's in a nursing bed in the living room. And I said, Ed, nice to meet you. is everything okay? He says, well, no, not really. I said, well, what's your story? Because everybody has a story. Ed was about 70. He said, about 35 years ago, I was holding the ladder of my buddy who was up on the roof cleaning the gutters. And then my buddy was coming down and he slipped and he fell on top of Ed. And Ed broke his neck. C5, C6. You can't make this up. Ed is a quadriplegic from his chin to his toes, and he's been in that bed ever since. Like me, Ed did not have the ability to sign the documents. All he could give me was his X. And he said he was willing to do that if I would afford him another minute. And I said, sure, Ed, I'd be willing to do that. We started talking, and he started to draw me in a little closer. And he said, closer. And he was whispering to me. And this is what he said. Put the pillow over my head. When you lose your purpose, you may lose your life. Ed has been struggling for his purpose. So why do successful people do what unsuccessful people are unwilling or unable to do? Is their purpose is so meaningful and so powerful. They're so hungry that they're willing to create the habits to get and accomplish their purpose. Through my Lily class, this was my purpose. I was going to serve with all my mind, with all my heart, and all my resource. Number 2. I'll try to lighten it up a little bit, okay? They have a mindset of daily victories. Daily victories. Somebody asked me what my morning routine was. My alarm clock goes off. Most days I don't need it. I usually beat it. I think that's a sign of age, right? Probably got to go pee or something. But those daily victories start off with a positive and passionate and grateful way of looking at life. And the first thing I do, because my wife beats me in getting up out of bed, is I make the bed. You know how powerful making the bed is for your spouse? And I finally have figured out what those little pillows are all about. And you have to place them appropriately, at the right angle, in the right order. And the little stuffed animals, they go in a particular place as well. It's called training, guys. And after that, I drink my 12 ounces to 16 ounces of water. And then I get ready to set up the coffee machine and start to make coffee. And then I do my 6-minute plank. And then the coffee's done after 6 minutes, and that's how I got into it. I started out at 30 seconds, and then it graduated. Today it was 7:03. You'll just have to trust me on that. And then I have my coffee, and then I go for my morning run. And then I come back, and I do my hour of reading. I'll take my shower, and I make my 10 phone calls before I leave the house and head to the office or my first appointment. And that is a ritual that I live every morning. My wife thinks I'm absolutely boring. Because when she sees that I'm measuring my oatmeal into my cup, and I have a half a cup of blueberries, and I have 1 banana, and I have my tablespoon of honey, and I mix it all together with boiling hot water, she thinks I'm boring. But these daily victories in the last 9 years have taken me from 174 pounds to a beautiful 144. And here's the kicker. It's because I said I would. Alex Sheen, saw him speak. We've connected. Imagine telling yourself every day, because I said I would. Imagine presenting this little saying to your client that said, I am going to work on your behalf because I said I would. I am going to ask you the tough questions because I said I would. And I am going to ask you to buy life insurance and disability insurance because I said I would. Number 3. Got about 10 minutes left. Successful people are always striving forward. Have you noticed that? Their mission is never, ever, ever complete. They have more to do. See, the 6-minute plank wasn't enough. My high is 12 minutes and 38 seconds. See, my mission was never complete because I did the next marathon. It was the 2010 marathon. I did 6 hours and 9 minutes and 59 seconds in 2009. I did 5 hours and 21 minutes in 2010. And of course, you probably figured out I'm AAA. In 2011, I did 4 hours and 32 minutes. 2012, 4 hours and 29 minutes. 2013, 4:24. 2014, 4 hours and 20 minutes. I stumbled, unfortunately, in 2015, 5 hours and 10 minutes. And last year, I did 4 hours and 4 hours and 34 minutes. You know the best part of doing the marathon? It's raising the money for the charity. See, the purpose is bigger than the activity. Remember, you got to have a big, big purpose, and that's what keeps me moving forward. I'm not a marathon runner. I'm a charity fundraiser that happens to run marathons. $1 Million Roundtable Foundation. For those of you that are members of the $1 Million Roundtable, you may not know that you have the ability to apply for a $1 Million Roundtable Foundation grant. Out of the 60,000 $1 Million Roundtable members that we have, we only had 160 applications for money. Guess how many applications were funded last year? 160. $1 Million Roundtable contributed $30,000 to my cause. Blew me away. That year I raised over $100,000 for the Spinal Cord Injury Association. If you choose to get involved, be careful, because the goodness is going to come like you can't even imagine. It's like Santa Claus. It shows up. Your why has got to be so big that it will motivate you and stimulate you and inspire you to do great things. And don't think your customers don't know it. Your customers are looking right through you, and they're trying to figure out what is his why, what is her why. They see right through you. Now just pardon me for one more second. I need one more piece of help. And I share this with you not for ego. I only share this with you to illustrate the point. So remember, we talked about my 2009 personal financial statement, right? What financial statement is this? Oh, I'm sorry, there you go. Right there.
says February 2016 financial.
February 16, and so my life insurance. So remember, how many years between 1999 and 2017? How many? 18 years. I went from 360,000 to how much?
$10,195,291.
You see, sweetie, I am better off dead than alive. And what's my cash value?
528,763.
No ego, no ego. It was just, I put it in place and I let the magic of life insurance do the rest. Not bad for a DI guy. One more thing. You know, a great way to make a big difference in charity is what?
Charitable life insurance plan,
And how much do I have with that?
$1 million.
And then the second one to the foundation?
$275,000.
Yeah, so when you give, you get. When you give, you get. And I mean it so sincerely. Hopefully you take it that way. Let's move on. Two last ones and then one closing story. Isn't it amazing how the greats of the greats invest their time and their treasure and their resources? Reid Hoffman of LinkedIn, he's the owner of LinkedIn. He's the one that said this. Successful people invest in themselves, they invest in their network, and they invest in their industry. Ask yourself, how are you investing in yourself? Why did I go to the American College and get my Master's of Science Management at the age of 46? You know why? Because I wanted to make darn sure I was going to be the best NAFA board member I could be. And so when I became president, I had the skills and the capabilities to help the organization the best way I could. How are you investing in your network? Think about your network. Are you giving to your network? And lastly, how are you contributing to the industry, whether that be through PAC, whether that be through volunteering your time, your talent, or your treasure? I always find it amazing the successful people keep giving back. We all know this gentleman, don't we? Scotty Brennan out of Indiana. Scotty's holding an MDRT Foundation charity check that he's going to deliver. Scotty's a giver. And when you give, you get. Last one. It's not called prospecting, it's called positioning. Think about how you are positioning yourself in your community, in your neighborhood, in your office, in your family. And what I tend to do is I tend to try to surround myself with the people, programs, and resources to leverage up, to get the best of me out. And I surround myself with NAFA, I surround myself with MDRT, I surround myself with my speaker coach, I surround myself with strategic coach, I surround myself with a nutritionist, I surround myself with a coach that helps me in my running and my strength training. I do that so that I can try to be the best person I can be, personally, professionally, and in my public life. I'm going to blow through this real quick. How many people know Covey's Activity 4-box matrix? I try to spend 80% of my time in the important, not urgent area. You know how easy it is to get sucked into Facebook all day? Facebook is a tool. It's not an important part of my life. I really focus on three things: my health and my body, my well-being as a person, physically and mentally. I focus on my work. It isn't work in the four-letter word sense. It's my purpose. And I focus on my charitable contributions and the other hobbies that I have. And I do not have very many hobbies. Last key strategy before two quick stories. Have you surrounded yourself with the people or the environment that's holding you accountable to perform at the highest level? I was at the MDRT Foundation Phone-a-thon last week. You want to surround yourself with like-minded people that are going to help you perform better? I've never made so many phone calls. Phone call after phone call after phone call after phone call asking people for money to support our $1 Million Roundtable Foundation. You want to get really, really good? You surround yourself with people that are going to challenge you and help you perform at the highest possible level for you. I'm not here to compete with you. I am only here to perform at the highest possible level that I can in my short time on this earth. I got a second chance, and I'm not letting it go. Yeah, most people think success is the easy ride, right? I took the messy route. So Danielle, remember the 11-year-old girl, gymnast? She wrote me a thank you note. Short version was, I want to grow up to be just like you. As financial advisors, we're givers, we're difference makers, and we can make an incredible difference in our community, in our neighborhoods, in our businesses, because we deliver the goods. Last story. As you know, I do a fair amount of speaking. So I'm down at IFA, North Dakota. I put on the show. Get a nice applause, very appreciative. I like to hang around with the Yats, and it's not because of the beer, but it's because they're just really cool people. And of course, they had a Yat party upstairs after the event, so I went up there. And this young man marched over to me. His name is Manny. And Manny gave me the look. And he said, how do you do it? I said, I don't know, what are you talking about? How do you deal with all that rejection? How do you deal with all that negativity? I said, well, Manny, before I can answer, tell me a little bit about yourself. Well, I'm a Navy veteran. I served the United States for a decade. I was in Japan, Afghanistan, Iraq. I saw combat, came back wounded. I'm married, 2 kids. I have an American family agency. But I really want to know how you deal with the rejection, how you deal with the adversity. And Manny, geez, how am I qualified for that? I mean, you served our country. You're wounded. He said, sir, I want the answer. I said, I'll give you an answer. My mantra is release. I pull on that thought zapper band, and I just release. Just let it out. Manny took it in, and he walked away. About 40 minutes later, he marches over to me, and he said, sir, I want to thank you. And he handed me his U.S. Navy-issued knife. I said, Manny, I can't accept this. He said, sir, it'd be dishonorable if you didn't accept it. So I accepted it. Never saw Manny again. Got on a plane headed to D.C. the next day, and I'm sitting next to a U.S. Navy serviceman. So I pull out the knife that I snuck through TSA. And I showed it to him. I said, hey, can you tell me the story on the knife? He said, I'd gladly tell you the story of the knife. There's really 3 things you need to know. Number 1, it's the weapon of last resort. Number 2, it's the closest thing to our heart, and we never, ever, ever give it up. And lastly, and most importantly, when our servicemen and women leave the service and they come back home, it's like leaving the brotherhood, the sisterhood. So Manny was inviting you into that brotherhood, that sisterhood. And isn't that exactly what NAIFA and MDRT is all about? It's that brotherhood that brings us together. It's that sisterhood that brings us together. I want you to walk out of here believing. I want you walking out of here owning the business. I want you walking out of here living this business as brothers and sisters. Thank you.